It's rated PG. Unlike last week, today will be good for the kids. The kids that do not want to see the play are welcome to go to the kids' church event. Last week only 4 went, so I don't know if they're going to bring them. They're going to sit them all in the back row. So if kids do go over there, if we send them over there, they're gonna bring them back. Last week was scary because there was demons, but Daniel didn't write this one, I did. So let me tell somebody right now, Daniel writes sermons, there's demons in it. I don't know why. Amen.
You know what you do?
God told Joshua,
Okay, I'm gonna do
I've entitled today's sermon,
Where is this? Oh.
God doesn't take sides. Somebody say, God doesn't take sides. Tell somebody, God doesn't take sides. Tell somebody, God doesn't take sides. Now tell them, He takes over. How many know that? God doesn't take sides, He takes over. Amen? God does not take sides, He takes over. We usually have the Bible verses up on the projector, but I'm not going to do that today because it'll mess up one of my scenes. So, God does not take sides, He takes over. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 7 and 9, in Joshua 1, 7 and 9, God told Joshua 2 times. This is verse 7 and verse 9 of Joshua 1. Be strong and very courageous. Somebody say courageous. Say it like an Iron Man. Courageous. Amen. Say it like a band of sisters. Courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Have I not commanded you? That was verse 7. Be courageous. Verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. He said it again. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. What was happening with Joshua? What was happening with the soundtrack? It must have been happening the same thing with Joshua. I have no idea what was happening with Joshua. But there's a reason God had to tell him 2 times. Be strong and courageous.
Caleb, we have arrived at the camp.
Yes. That's it. Talk.
Caleb.
Yes.
Do you remember the times that we have wandered with Moses? Well, he was a great leader.
A lot of wars. A lot of kingdoms.
We went through so much. We went through so much.
Yes.
But Caleb, I'm concerned. Moses has given me this position of leadership. And I don't know. This is very difficult for me to understand.
You have learned well from Moses.
He was a great leader. How can I follow his footsteps? It's almost unbearable. I mean, I don't understand it.
You were put for that reason, to follow in his footsteps. Have faith.
We're supposed to go take over this city of Jericho, which is so fortified. I have no idea how we're going to go about this.
We have conquered a lot of kingdoms.
I know, but let me tell you. I sent 2 spies in secret.
What?
Yes, I had to.
How are the rest of the soldiers going to feel about this? You know how...
You know these people, I can't have them become discouraged. I can't have them become discouraged.
Commander, we're back.
Yes. Give me your report.
We got to the walls. The walls are really, really big, really tough. I don't know if we'll be able to break through them. He's right. They are big, but I think we can do it. All we have are spears and a few rocks.
Caleb, I told you. I knew this was going to be difficult.
Okay, but Commander.
Tell me.
We were there. We got to the city. We met this entrepreneur woman, and she was very kind and very nice. She showed us around the city, and when we looked around, we saw the wall. But Commander, when we were inside, we noticed the people. They're scared. The army's huge. There's so many people. We don't have an army like that. We don't. But they're afraid of our God. They've heard the words of our God, of our strength with Him behind us. And they're
knew this.
terrified.
We will keep
I
our
knew
faith.
this. I don't know if I can do this as a leader. It's a very difficult situation.
Commander, we just need to get over the wall. That's it.
You have been commanded, Joshua. We will overcome. Our soldiers are well trained.
Let us do so. Let us go.
Now, there's a reason that God repeated it twice. Be courageous, be courageous, be courageous. In verse 7, he said, be strong, be courageous. In verse 9, be strong. In verse 10, what he does is, when he leaves this scene, he begins to prepare the people. He says, in 3 days, we're going to cross the Jordan. So after he gets the report from the spies, after he sends them, he says, we're going to take 3 days to plan what we're going to do. Really what he was doing was waiting for the spies that he sent out. Now, God had already commanded him to be strong and courageous. Why did he send out spies? Why would he send out spies when God's already told him, be strong and courageous, I'm going to give you a victory. Now, many people think it's because, he was a good military man and he was a good strategist and he knew that he needed to get some intel before he went into battle. But I think there was another reason. When you're not the head of the people, you act different. When you're one of the foot soldiers, when you're a son or a daughter, you act way different than the person calling the shots. Before, when he gave the report with Joshua, when they sent the 12 spies into the promised land 40 years earlier, him and Joshua came back, Caleb and Joshua came back, and they were gung-ho. God's on our side, let's do this. But it's different when you have the mantle of leadership. Just think about it in your home. You're the leader. When you're the head of the household, you think of things that those that aren't the head of the household don't think about. You think about the mortgage, you think about the bills, you think about the food, you think about the maintenance of your home, you think of the upkeep of your home, you think of the lawn, amen. You think of the lawn, you think of your health. If I get sick, who's going to make money? You think about the welfare of those who live inside that house. That's when I know my kids are going to grow up, because right now I watch them at their age and they only care about one thing. This is boring. You know what? I work really hard so you can be bored in this safe home. When you're the head of the house, you think of so much more. Now that the mantle of leadership has fallen onto Joshua, he's thinking a little differently than he was before. God is telling him to be strong and courageous twice in chapter 1, because he knows what he is preparing him for is not going to be easy. But if you're courageous, you will be successful. When you're strong and courageous, you will be successful. Cowards are not successful. Cowards are not successful. They don't take the steps necessary. They don't make the hard decisions because I don't want to do the wrong thing. You can't run from your problem. You have to be strong and courageous. From the time I was 9 years old, 8 years old, whatever age you are in 5th grade, I remember the verse in Road Rangers, Joshua 1:9. I learned that through Road Rangers. How many went through Road Rangers? Say amen. I see those hands going up everywhere. Okay, I didn't see a single hand. It's dark. But still, I know what you meant. The theme verse for Road Rangers was Josué 1:9. Mira que te mando que te esfuerces, que seas valiente, no temas ni desmayes, porque el Señor tu Dios será contigo donde quiera que tú vayas. That was my life verse from 9 years old to today. Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not fear, for I will be with you wherever you go. I'm going to tell you something. When I took off at 17 years old from my house to go to the United States military, I had that verse on my mind. When I was going through boot camp, I had that verse on my mind. When I got in a perfectly good airplane to jump out 46 times, I had that verse in my mind. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. When I found out that Annie liked me, because her sister told me, I had to be strong and courageous. Some of you single guys here, you're still single because you're a coward. You can't say amen, say well. And some of you unmarried men are unmarried because you're scared. You know the pressure, the mantle of leadership. I gotta provide a home. I gotta be responsible. No, when you're solo, when you're by yourself and you're flying solo, it's just about you. Primero tus dientes. That's all that matters is you're in there. Let me tell you something. When you have a family, everything changes. And it's all better. But you'll never know if you don't grow the courage to do it. Now, some of you guys are saying, Pastor, it takes a lot of courage to be alone in this world. You don't know, but I'm courageous the other way. You keep telling yourself that. And I'll tell you what God said. He did not mean for any of you men to live alone. Ministry. I come to you and I say, we could use help. We could use help. Why don't you join us? Well, I'll pray about it. You don't need to pray about serving. You don't need to hear a voice from God to get involved in kids ministry, in the nursery, with Boys to Men or Girls Club or Iron Man or the Band of Sisters. You know what you need? You need courage to say, you know what? I'm going to commit to something and I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there for my brother, my sister, or be there for the kids. Little Hoopsters yesterday was a complete fiasco. There was people everywhere. The cops came to our church. They said, what's going on here? He said, oh, you want some nachos? Oh, okay. Everything's fine after that. I want you to understand something. My wife and I were sitting at home when the superintendent called and said, you won the election. Your pastor's in Fresno. And I said, oh, snaps. I'm moving to Fresno. And within 2 weeks of getting that call, my wife and I packed everything we had into our two 18-wheelers. Imagine, how sad are you? Everything you have fits in two 18-wheelers. We came here. We had courage. But we had heard from God. We had heard from God. In chapter 2, verse 22 of Joshua, it says, when they left, they went into the hills and they stayed there for 3 days after spying out the land. These spies that went and spied out the land came back after 3 days. Remember, I told you Joshua has them waiting 3 days. They came back and they told him everything. They told him everything they saw. They told him about the entrepreneurial woman they stayed with. Does you know the story? No, she was an entrepreneur. Amen. These ladies on Belmont are entrepreneurs. Don't you look down your nose at them. They just need Jesus. Amen. Maybe some of you need the courage to tell them. Told them everything they saw and everything that happened. Yes, the city is fortified. And Joshua, when he sent them, he was very specific. He was very specific in Joshua chapter 2, verse 1. In Joshua chapter 2, verse 1, he had just told them, Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. He had to send them secretly because the last time spies came back with a report, the people got scared and wanted to go back to Egypt. So he sent them secretly. And he said, go look over the land, especially Jericho. Jericho's on his mind. He was in a Jericho kind of mind. They came back and they said everything they saw. So Joshua takes it upon himself. I want you to understand something. This is the first king, the first general in the Bible that would go and spy out the land himself.
What is this? Stop! Who are you? What is this? I must be seeing things. I got to be imagining this. I don't understand. What is this? And who are you? Stop! Who are you?
Stop right there. For I am the angel of the Lord who has now come.
Oh, God, forgive me. Forgive me, Lord.
Remove your sandals off your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground.
Lord, forgive me. Forgive me. I don't understand. Forgive me. But what is it? What is it that you have this message for your servant?
For I have already delivered the hands of Jericho and its fighting men and its kings into your hand.
What? How can that be? I don't understand. How can this be?
You will march around the city once for 6 days, and every day you will have the priests with their trumpets in front of the ark.
By marching? I don't understand.
And on the 7th day, you will march 7 times. And on that 7th time,
I am so confused.
you will sound the long blast trumpets, and all your men will shout, and the walls of Jericho will come crumbling down.
With shouting and trumpets?
And they will know that God has given you the victory. And I will deliver you from the hands of Jericho, and you will run in, and the victory shall be yours.
Let it be as you say. Let us prepare for battle.
Now, the Bible doesn't say this, but I know for a fact, and we have military people here, commanders usually don't go into the field to do the spying. If you look at the life of King Saul in the Bible, he never went as a spy. If you look at the life of King David, he never went as a spy. If you look at the life of Moses, he never went as a spy. None of the generals in the Bible and none of the kings in the Bible ever went to spy out the land for themselves. But the Bible says in Joshua chapter 5, verse 13 through 15, Joshua went to Jericho. He looked up and he saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword. It doesn't say it was on fire, but hey, some of you were falling asleep. He saw a man with a sword in his hand. Joshua went right up to him and he asked, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" And he said, "Neither. But as commander of the Lord's army, I have now come. Take off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy ground. I have given Jericho into your hands." Not I will give Jericho into your hands. I have given Jericho into your hands. Now I want you to imagine, why would he go? Why would a commander go? None of the other kings ever went. None of the other generals ever went. But he wanted to see for himself. God has already told him in the first chapter, be strong and courageous. If you keep reading Joshua, he tells him at least 9 times, be strong and courageous. Some of you, God is telling you this morning, quit being afraid. Be strong and courageous. Confront whatever it is you're facing this morning. Whatever it is you're struggling with. The Bible says when he saw the man standing there with a sword, he walked right up to him and said, "Are you for us or are you against us?" How could it be that Joshua, if you go back into the story of Moses and Joshua, it says that Moses would go up to Mount Sinai to speak to God. And while he was up there, the presence of God would descend onto the mountain. And only Moses and Joshua would experience it. He had already experienced the presence of God. From Mount Sinai, we know when they move out into the desert, the 40 years, every time God showed up in the tent of the meeting where God would talk to Moses as a man talks to another man face to face, every time they were there, Moses would leave the presence of God and Joshua would stay there until the presence of God left. If somebody knows the presence of God, it is Joshua. If somebody knew what it was like to be in the presence of the Almighty, it was Joshua. Why didn't he recognize him on that day? I'm going to tell you something. If you're scared and you're running around and you're living in fear, you may not recognize God showing up in your life. And there's a reason he went by himself. He didn't trust anyone. He sent 2 spies. They came back. He didn't trust them. He had to see it for himself. You will not make it in this Christian walk unless you learn how to trust other people. I'm going to say it again. You will not make it in this Christian walk until you learn how to trust other people. You need a friend. You need what we call in the military a battle buddy, a fighting friend, somebody that would stick closer to you than your own brother. And right from this service, I'm going to be with mine at Kaiser. I was going to take Jason to lunch, but now I can't. There's 4 Jasons here. He goes, which one? Which one did he mean? Which one? Was it me? Was it me? Was it? I want you to understand something. He did not recognize it because he's now walking in fear. And he walks up to him and he says, what side are you on? He says, I'm on neither side. And I want you to understand something this morning. Some of you are here this morning and you've had the audacity to call down a curse on somebody else. God, choose between me and them. And if one of us is wrong, deal with us, because I know I didn't do nothing wrong. Some of you have the audacity to say, God, deal with this person. I'm here to tell you, be careful. You don't ask God to take the wrong person out, because he's not on your side and he's not on their side. He said, I'm on neither side. I'm on the side of the God of the army of the Lord. He goes, I am the Lord's side. When God shows up, he doesn't take sides. He takes over. What are you afraid of? What are you running from? Joshua 6:2 says, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around that city 7 times. And what I want you to understand is this. God has already delivered you from whatever it is. Oh, I just said whoever it is. Okay, that works. See, I meant to say whoever it is. God has delivered you from whatever it is and whoever it is. You just got to march. Just keep marching. I never got to go on a long ruck march. The longest ruck march I ever went on carrying a big bag on my back was 5 miles, I think. That was the longest I ever went. Everybody else in my unit had to do 50-mile ruck marches where they would put it on their back, walk for 50 miles. I didn't have to do that. I never had to do that. They did it at least twice a year. I was always gone when they did it in a foreign country fighting a war. So I never had to do it, but the secret to that was this. You can get so tired where you're not even moving your feet forward anymore. You're not even marching. It's rote memory. Your body just does it. And your feet just keep going and keep going. And you just keep marching. Some of you are at the point right now where you've lost all your strength, but you need to keep marching. Some of you have been offended, but you need to keep marching. Some of you have been hurt, but you need to keep marching. What the enemy wants you to do is stop marching. With all the giftedness and all the abilities and everything that God has given you, the worst thing you could do is stop right now. How do you keep going? You need to get over whatever it was and whoever it was. Don't be scared. Move on. We're going to move into communion right now. I'm going to ask the 2 men with the fire hydrants, the fire extinguishers, to move communion table to the middle.